All right, digital designers. So now that you know what we're making for this project, we're going to actually set up your canvas in Photoshop so that you can create your own custom holiday card. Now, these are going to be for print. So we want to make sure that our settings are high enough that these are going to look really great when you print them out, either as photos or as postcards or anything else. So we're going to go to File, New in Photoshop, and you'll get your options for the type of document you're going to make. We're going to go to Print, and we want to make a postcard size image. Okay, now postcards are typically 4 inches by 6 inches, and they can be either portrait, kind of tall mode, or landscape, kind of wide. And which way you use is totally up to you. What I do want you to do is in the preset details, include your name. So you're going to put your first name, last name, and then holiday card as the title. The width, depending on which direction you're going to go, the width will be 6 inches and the height will be 4. Okay, this is going to give me a landscape size card, but if you want to flip it, you can click these buttons and swap it back and forth. And the big thing is we want to make sure that these are set to 300 pixels per inch for the resolution. That's high quality for print. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit create, and that will launch a new postcard size image that we can design it. Okay, now before you get painting, we want to set some guidelines for ourselves so that we don't get too close to the edges and have something look accidental. So what you want to do is bring up your rulers, and in Photoshop, all you need to do to bring rulers up is do Control R. That launches your rulers, and you'll see them across the top of the screen. If you right click on one of those rulers, you can set it to inches. And then we're going to add some guides here. So what I do is I click on the ruler and I drag down to create a guideline. Okay. Now a guideline is an invisible blue line that just helps you keep your work organized so that you know where to stop painting and where to leave some blank space in. So I'm going to put a guideline here at the top. I'm also going to put one at the bottom, about the same distance away from the bottom. And then I'm going to grab some from the side. I'll come over here, click on the side ruler and drag it across, and then drag one more across all the way to the other side. Okay. This gives me my guidelines, and I'm going to start doing my illustrated card inside these lines. If you go outside the guides, that's fine. Just know that at the end of the project, we're probably going to cut off anything that's past those blue lines. So it'll just be white space around the outside of the card design. Okay. And then you can go ahead and save this, Control S, so that you can begin working. I'm going to put this on my desktop, and I'm going to make sure that I'm saving it as a Photoshop file. Whoops, Photoshop PSD. There we go. Photoshop PSD, and then hit save. And now you can begin your designs. Okay. I would encourage you to work on separate layers for this project. So each time you're drawing something new for your card design, just click the little plus button down here to make a new layer. That will keep all the different pieces separate in case we need to make any adjustments to them. We are going to be using that lasso and paint technique. So, I'll do one really quick here. If I take my lasso tool, and I'm going to create some rolling snowy hills here. Oops, I can see something happen right here. You see how all of a sudden my lasso tool got kind of straightened out? That's telling me that there's a function on called snap. I'm going to go up to view, and I'm going to uncheck the box that says snap so that my lines don't automatically stick to that ruler. Okay, let's try this again. So I'm going to put in a nice flowing hill right here. I'll bring it back up, and let's get some light blue for my snow. I'm going to give it a really, really light blue here. Paintbrush, and I want to fill this in. Let's probably want something from my dry brushes here. Let's get a big pastel. Or no, let's use a charcoal. Okay. And I'm going to make my brush really big, and I'm just going to tap inside this shape to make my snow. It's okay if there's a little bit of white left over, because that's actually going to create a little bit of texture in this design. Okay. Now I'm going to add another layer behind this one. So I'll just click new layer and drag it to the behind there. And I'll zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to create another crisscrossing hill in the background. only this one's going to be even lighter because it's farther away. So I'm going to just move a little bit lighter over here, hit OK, take my brush, and fill this in with some snow effect there. Okay, so now I've got some layers to what's happening in my scene. I can continue to add layers behind this. So let's take some more. We'll do a little flowy one way in the background here. And this one's barely going to have any blue in it at all. Maybe I'll just tap it down a little bit and use my brush to fill that in. Okay, that one's going to come out a little bit more gray, but that's all right. If you ever mess up, you can just do Control Z and go back a step. And then you can pick a brighter color. We'll grab a little bit lighter blue here. Okay. And this is why I was kind of encouraging you guys to work on separate layers, because now that I put this in here, I can see that this middle hill is kind of too light. But watch, if I go to that layer and I do Control U, I can bring up my hue and saturation, and I can darken this layer just by pulling on the slider here. I can change its color if I want to make this a little bit lighter blue or a little bit more saturated, and that will really help me kind of balance this out. So that looks good. I'm happy with that. All right, now in my other design here, I created these little trees, and I'm going to turn this into a brush. What I'll do is I'm going to circle around this little doodle of a tree I made. I'll go to Edit, Define Brush. I'm going to call this Pine Tree. Okay. And now I've made a brush that actually looks like a little tree. That's actually pretty cool. I'll go up to my settings here, and I want to change the spacing so that these trees are a little bit more spaced out. And I also want to change their shape dynamics. I want these trees to be different sizes as I draw. Okay, so I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I don't want them to rotate at all because the tree trunk should always be face down. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's try to paint with this. I'm going to go back over to my holiday card. I'll go up to a new layer. And as I paint, whoops, let's get a darker color here. Switch over to a nice dark forest green. And every time I paint now, I'm going to get a little tree in my design. Okay, so I can use this to kind of quickly create a forest scene. And if I want bigger ones, I can always like make this brush a little bit bigger, put it closer to the screen. If I want some to be farther away, I can make the size really small and just put them in the background there. And I can very quickly build up my design. Okay, so we're going to keep adding to this and we'll see what we get. There's lots of brushes, guys, especially in that winter 2020 pack that I had you guys download the other day that will really add to this scene. There's some that actually look like snow and snowflakes. So I'm going to come in here like to this Frosties one, and I'll grab a nice light blue, and I'll put this on a layer up above everything else. Let's go up, and with the Frosties brush, I can create some texture over the top of this to make it look even colder. Okay, or even better, what you could do is add this texture only to those hills that we made. If I go to one of those hills and I control click on it, it will select just that hill, and then anything I paint is only going to fall inside that shape. Okay, which is really helpful. Come down here and I'll paint that in, and then now that texture is only on that hillside that I put in the background. So try this out. There's a lot to explore. You can get super creative with this, even if you feel like you're not an artist. Try it out and see what you can come up with.